Hello, everyone. Welcome to another soulful sip conversation. As always, I would like to invite you to grab one of your favorite drinks tea, coffee, or a glass of water and join me for a soulful and deep conversation about shame and how we can heal it, and how, when we heal shame, we can recreate beautiful things and bring more harmony, more innovation, more freshness into our lives. While there are different definitions of shame, the one that deeply resonated with me is coming from one of the books I read quite recently. It was a part of Trickster Makes This World by Hyde in the book. This was one of the definitions of shame, and I would like to start with that. Shame is deep in the body. Shame is what we are. Guilt is what we do. Guilt can be undone with acts of difference, but the feeling of shame sticks around like the smell of cigarettes. This really highlights how shame is a very deep feeling when we are not welcoming all of ourselves, or when we are welcomed with all of ourselves as a human being. It is deep. It's not about what we say, it's not about how we act. It is who we are. It's related to who we are. It's related to our self acceptance. It's related to how others accept us, or what we feel when we are not accepted. From an Eastern perspective, I will borrow a couple ancient wisdom from yoga and the energetic system named as chakras. Chakras are different energy systems within the body. We have seven. And the third chakra, which is the chakra related to our self worth, is the one that is affiliated with the wound of shame. If we are not really able to welcome all of ourselves, everything that really makes us us, we don't feel worthy of life. And if we are not really able to welcome all these diverse parts that might not be welcomed by society, that might not be welcomed by the traditions that we are born into, then we lose our power because we are not operating with our own fullness. And this is one of the core wounds that is very dominant in our world today. And I would like to really talk about this one because this is a dominant one in my own energetic system as well. And I have many personal reasons to feel this wound more from a mythological perspective, and I will share more about that too. Because as an outlier and misfit in many circumstances in my life, I've been always different from the mainstream, or I positioned myself in the context that revealed my differences. And it was not an easy journey. It brought lots of feelings of shame, and I had to work through this deep feeling, that deep smell of cigarettes, and find different ways of transmuting them, transforming them, so that instead of complaining about it, I find beauty in it. And through my own embodiment of my own fullness, I can bring more innovation to the world. Just to make things more concrete, I would like to share one of the things that I was somehow always criticized about from a mainstream point of view when I was growing up. Um, at the time, it didn't make sense, and I was not really powerful enough to see the beauty of this when I heard about this particular criticism, I internalized this criticism quite a long time. And here's where the criticism coming from. I was always passionate about many things in life. I had so much diverse interests. For that reason, it was not easy for me to make a decision. And I'm a Gemini. We have very diverse interests as well. And in that sense, I am representing some features of my own sign as well. Um, but I was always criticized because I was not selecting one thing. Oh, celebration of the richness of life. Because I was so much into celebrating the diversity of life and I was optimizing for different experiences. And I was not really sticking to one thing as if I'm expected to. Most of the time, I was criticized by my peers, by the people around me, by not being as focused as they are or committed as they are in their own terms. And for a long time, this was a shame I carried in my heart without even realizing that the same thing that they criticized about me was my strength that was giving me the motivation, the power to pursue different experiences in life. By not making a choice, I was actually exposing myself to many different diverse experiences. I was traveling a lot, I was reading a lot, I was connecting to different cultures, I was experiencing the diversity of the world in a way to honor the depth and the richness of human experience so that I can create an harmony out of it. So there was actually a commitment in that too. I was committed to the diversity of the experiences or to the experiences itself because that was what was making me full and that was what my soul was craving. So I was not okay to be caged into one thing, but I was so shamed out of my preferences. But if we see it on the other side, the same preferences that led me to honor that drive for different experiences, for playfulness, for seeing different things, for trying different things, made me the person who introduced so much innovations in my life, made this my profession, and helped others to do the same in their own lives as well. So, seeing on the other side, the thing that I was shamed about was the gift that also enabled me to find different paths, to discover new things, to make new associations, and to bring new innovation to the world in a way that was not possible if I was listening to others who were shaming me about my eagerness to experience different things and not sticking to one thing. So at the stage after that integration and after seeing how I can unite all of myself and how when I do that, I can bring the gifts of my interest back to the world, it feels absolutely joyful to welcome all of myself. So I can bring more of the gifts of that wisdom into the world. But of course, when I was going through this experience, it was not easy. It is never easy. But whenever we feel that dissonance between what we know to be our truth and what we hear from outside, that is a choice point for us. First, to own our inner selves, our inner truths, and bring more of its holistic wisdom back to the world in the form of gifts. So we can transform and transmute that shame energy, the parts that are neglected, and then integrate them back to us instead of me trying to force myself to commit to a one path. What if I make a commitment to change? What if I make a commitment to the experience itself so that out of that commitment, which is me honoring what my inner calling is leading me towards more innovation, towards more newness and originality and freshness in my life, which are the core values that I would like to live with in any case. So, in that sense, there is so much affiliation between the feelings of shame. If you are an innovator, if you are someone who is pushing the boundaries of the culture, and before reading the book, Trickster Makes This World by Lewis Hyde, I didn't know that there's an affiliation between the feeling of shame and being an immigrant, which is just another form of feeling different and being different. Here in the book, it was talking about how being an immigrant child naturally introduces the feeling of shame because you are born into one culture, but because you live that culture and you go towards another one, and that other culture is different than your original one, you are shamed in your own culture. But because the next culture that you migrated into is also different and you still have some fragments of your original culture in you as well, you are shamed in that new culture too. So, in that sense, you are somewhere stuck in the middle. You don't 100% belong to the old culture, but you still don't belong to the new culture too. And the author was giving some examples from immigrant people and revealing the fact that these people really feel more comfortable in that in between state on the road, which is another reflection of the trickster personality. You see trickster characters in mythology mostly on a journey, on a discovery, on an experimentation, because that's where they feel comfortable, because it's that in between state where they can come up with their own identities, not fully sticking to the old one and then not fully integrating the new one, but finding their balance somewhere in between. And because of that inner dilemma, inner paradox, these experiences and these feelings of shame is actually an opportunity for that trickster personality, for that immigrant child to find new ways of integrating both parts in herself, in himself, so that he or she can be the embodiment of the fusion and bringing something new to the world out of their own fullness, out of their own integrity of both. In the beginning pages of the book, there was a beautiful definition for the trickster personality that I would like to borrow from, if I can hopefully find it. Trickster is a creative idiot, therefore deviseful, the gray-haired baby, the speaker of sacred profanities. Trickster is the mythic embodiment of ambivalence, doubleness, duplicity, contradiction, and paradox. They are disruptive innovation and imagination. Seen this way, there is value in this pushing the boundaries personality, integrating two sides together, pushing the definition of the existing culture to a different form. And that innovation, that creativity requires us to be shameless, to be absolutely okay with all of ourselves. In my case, a part of me is Turkish, coming back to the example from the book, Immigrant Child. A part of me is still Turkish, but a part of me is American, a part of me is European, a part of me is that global world citizen. And those differences and those parts of me is calling me and inviting me to find different ways of integration of those identities in me so that I can become whole. And through that wholeness, I can bring more innovation, more integration to the world by my own embodiment. But it's a different way of framing. Instead of being shameful because I don't 100% fit into Turkish culture or American culture, I am reframing that shame in a way to be integrated into me in a holistic manner. And I am the first person not being ashamed of who I am, being both, holding both, loving both, integrating both first in me so that I can shamelessly shine my light as an integration of both out to the world. And that is the way that we bring innovation. That is the way that we push the boundaries of our world. That's the way that we bring unity into the world through our own shameless integration. It's not easy, but seen this way, feeling shame is only an invitation for us to really see those parts that is asking us for our integration. And instead of taking that external shame, what if we internalize the task as an invitation for us to welcome ourselves, even if we are the only ones, to see the beauty of who we are in our allness, in our wholeness, in our fullness. And from there, if we accept, even if we are the only ones who accept our own wholeness, then that gives others the right to see us in our wholeness and also extend an invitation for everyone to do the same. So instead of shaming each other, we can use shame to become whole within ourselves so that our wholeness can hold the space for others to become more whole. So there is nothing to shame about. We just see our wholeness and we just appreciate and honor each other's wholeness. Such a beautiful way of innovation, such a beautiful way of shamelessly bringing more of ourselves into the world. And if we can see it this way, shame is an invitation for us to become more whole, to welcome all of ourselves, so we can shamelessly create more beauty, innovation, and authenticity in the world. Can we do that? I think we can. So, as a part of this contemplation, I would like to ask you what this contemplation triggers in you. What's the invitation that you receive? If there's one thing that reminds you the feeling of shame, would you be shamelessly open enough to welcome it, to see it, to see its invitation, and to welcome the parts that are calling you to be integrated back? And what can you do differently to be able to bring more of those sides of you that are shamed? It could be your own personal space. It doesn't have to be in the open air in public. But what is one step that you can take to bring those shamed parts back to your own inner life so you can shamelessly, authentically bring more of yourself to the world? so that you can be the medicine that you would like to see in the world. You could be the medicine for healing this wound of shame. So we all feel absolutely delighted, vital, and happy in our own being instead of smelling these cigarettes. Well, I think that is all that's pouring out of me from this contemplation on shame. As always, if you have contributions, if you have personal stories, I would be delighted to hear. Till next time, remember that you are beautiful. You have beautiful stories in you. Please remember that and shamelessly, beautifully bring it out to the world. Thank you all. See you next time.